Here are 10 secrets flight attendants will never tell you. Is there a pilot in the plane? This rather incongruous question is the title of a good comedy from the early 1980s that has become almost cult-like and which tells us about the adventures of a commercial flight that finds itself without a pilot because of food poisoning. Yes, can you imagine the scene? A pilot who gets sick that he can't fly your plane anymore. Because if the commander suffers from diarrhea, it's a sure crash, it's well known. And it rhymes well, don't you think? But let's stay serious for a moment, because the crash of a plane is not entertaining, and believe me, the flight crew knows a lot of secrets on the subject that your friend World Revealed will reveal to you. To join fiction to reality indeed, it is interesting to note that the pilot does not eat the same food as the passengers or the co-pilot. Not that they bring their snacks from home, or that they get a pizza delivery in the middle of the flight, because they eat the same food that everyone else is served. But pilots and co-pilots are actually required to choose different dishes from each other in case one of these menus is poisoned or spoiled. This limits the risk for the airline to see the plane deprived of its pilots for a cause as stupid as indigestion or food poisoning. Losing your luggage at the airport is one of the biggest fears of travelers, because when it happens, it's the beginning of a big problem that awaits you. And believe me, it happens much more often than you think. The airlines will literally dance on one foot to even acknowledge your claim. From there, to compensate you, you'll have to wait until the hell freezes over. And even if you are incredibly lucky and your company is willing to compensate you, you will only be entitled a small amount of money in the end, like 20 euros per kilo of lost luggage. So, if you are carrying valuables in your luggage, you are sure to never see the color of your money. But what is this dark curse that hits flight passengers as randomly as a stray bullet and makes your luggage mysteriously disappear into airport limbo? So to answer this almost existential question, we asked people who work in airports like baggage handlers and cart drivers. They revealed to us that most of the time, lost luggage is their fault. Yes, you suspected it, didn't you? Indeed, human error is the first cause of this unpleasantness for airline passengers, because the luggage is lost by the airport staff. The latter can thus get on the wrong plane or simply forget the luggage in a place where it is not even supposed to be. Some people feel very uncomfortable getting on a plane, probably because of claustrophobia or vertigo of heights, or simply because they fear the hijacking of the plane by hijackers, or even worse, the crash of the plane. So to calm down and to be able to make their flight, some of them take tranquilizers or even sleeping pills, thus traveling all the way in the arms of Morpheus. But there are some who prefer to drown their apprehension and fears in alcohol. And as the popular saying goes, one drink is fine, two drinks are bad. Because by abusing cognac or bourbon, these unfortunate passengers are likely to fall into drunkenness in the middle of the flight, which can quickly turn out to be very unfortunate for everyone, especially if the safety of the plane is compromised. So to limit the damage, airlines have the right to remove you from the plane if one of the stewardesses, for example, suspects that you are starting to get drunk or behaving in a strange or aggressive way. So a little advice if you have a flight scheduled for tonight. Don't force yourself to drink too much and opt instead for a good old chamomile tea from your grandmother. It will be much better for you, believe me. If you have a flight from Paris to Rio de Janeiro or Marseille to Kuala Lumpur scheduled today, and after an hour or two you feel the urge to wash your hands, take some wipes with you because you will certainly need them. Because you don't want to wash your hands with water from the toilet tap, let alone drink it, believe me. The cabin crew has indeed told us an open secret about the so-called potable water flowing from the aircraft taps. On the contrary, this water is a real breeding ground for microbes and other bacteria of all kinds, since it has been stagnating for many hours in the plane's tanks. So if you are a little thirsty, ask this nice stewardess or steward to bring you a good bottle of mineral water. You who love to travel in planes, to visit faraway places, and who are therefore used to frequenting airports, you may think you know everything about these cosmopolitan microcosms par excellence. But if you think you know everything about these places and their occupants, you should know that they also know you inside and out. The flight attendants, which include flight attendants, have a list with the names of the passengers on the flight, but also the remarks that may have been left on them previously on another flight, such as aggressiveness or any other notable incident. This way, the flight attendants know you even before you board the plane, and therefore know what to expect from you, as well as the precautions they will have to take before welcoming you on board the aircraft. So, the next time a stewardess or steward looks at you a little strangely, or seems a little embarrassed to serve you, know that they know a lot about you. Things that you would have liked to keep to yourself after all. When there is a serious problem with an aircraft in flight, and the pilots fear an accidental depressurization of the aircraft, they will activate oxygen masks first. Because at their cruising altitude, which almost always exceeds 10,000 feet, the air is almost unbreathable due to the low oxygen content. Without these famous masks, the passengers would end up fainting after 10 to 15 seconds and would most certainly die of asphyxiation in the following few minutes. But what we don't know is that the oxygen reserve of the plane covers barely 13 minutes or even 15 at the most. This means that these masks will only last you a short time, just long enough for the plane to descend to an altitude where the air can be breathed. But don't worry, because the descent only takes a very short time, which means that the oxygen reserve in the plane is more than enough for all the passengers, so you won't need to fight for a little breath of fresh air. You are quietly filling in your little Sudoku grid in order to pass the time in a playful way during this long flight that is supposed to take you to Vanuatu. Your vacation promises to be sunny, to say the least, and you are already dreaming of practicing the subtle and pleasant art of lazing around, comfortably stretched out on a deck chair and sipping fresh coconut milk from the nut. But a pressing desire comes to remove you from your sweet reveries, and here comes the fateful moment to get up to go for a walk in the plane's toilets. Because like many people, public toilets have the unfortunate tendency to repulse you, even if most of the time they are clean and well maintained. But the prospect of doing your business in such an open area sincerely prevents you from concentrating on the task. And even though you've locked yourself in, you are never completely comfortable in that place. And you are right to be so apprehensive indeed, because you may not be washing, but airplane lavatories can be opened from the outside. Yes, any member of the flight crew can easily open the lavatory doors from the outside if he or she feels the situation requires it. This measure obviously concerns the risk of discomfort or fainting of a passenger who would remain stuck inside the toilet. That's all well and good, but now that you know this secret, you'll find it even more difficult to go to the bathroom on the plane, at the risk of having to wait until the next stopover in Australia, scheduled in about 9 hours and 31 minutes. If you are a frequent flyer, you are used to being told by the flight attendants to turn off all your electronic devices, specifically your cell phones or connected tablets. So you usually put your smartphone in flight mode, which is very convenient to be able to continue your game of Fruit Ninja without emitting electromagnetic interference. But what you may not know is that once you take off, you can remove the airplane mode, since the risk of interference with the onboard electronics only occurs during takeoff and landing. Thus, when the plane has reached its cruising altitude, you can use your telephone network, provided of course that it covers enough signal to reach the sky where you are. You have always dreamed of being a stewardess or flight attendant, and thus be able to fly around the world in 80 days, like in the adventures of Jules Verne. You will have the opportunity to live constantly in the air, above human beings and their stupid problems, and bathed in clouds of bliss. We're really sorry to disappoint you, but you have to keep your wits about you, because the job of stewardess or steward is not as fabulous as it seems, and very often, the flights turn out to be more tedious than magical. And if you think that these poor flight attendants are as free as a bird, since they travel every day in the vast sky, you are sadly mistaken. The poor flight attendants are literally tyrannized by a very strict regulation of the airlines that hire them. They are forbidden to put on weight or gain weight, and they must all have the same lipstick and nail polish. These rules that go beyond understanding even go as far as prohibiting such or such color of bra to these ladies, who can only wear what the airline company imposes on them, and which has the nerve to interfere in the choice of their underwear. And as always on your beloved YouTube channel, we have saved the best for last by revealing to you this time a secret jealousy kept by the aeronautical industry. You may have already noticed this tiny hole in the windows of airplanes, and you probably wondered what it could be used for. Your curiosity may have even pushed you to ask the charming stewardess who so kindly brought you your little snack. But in front of her puzzled and questioning look, you had to give up to get a satisfactory answer from her, because at worst, she doesn't know anything about it, and at best, she doesn't have much time to explain to you how planes are made. But don't worry, because we'll tell you everything right away. This small hole in the window is called the bleed hole, and as its name indicates, it is in fact used to balance the atmospheric pressure between the passenger cabin and the external fuselage. This bleed hole is therefore extremely important for the safety of the aircraft and its passengers, and it is also thanks to it that the windows do not fog up or get covered with ice, thus letting you enjoy the sublime landscape, if you are seated on the window's side, of course. Now tell us in the comments what you think about these surprising secrets of the flight attendants, and tell us which one of them shocked you the most. Don't forget to subscribe and click here to watch another of our videos.